Good evening, everyone. Welcome to NTD Tonight. I'm David Zhang. Here is a preview of some of today's top stories. A former California sheriff removed from social media platform X. The reason is unclear, but he's accusing his election opponent. A record meth bust at the border. More on where and how the Customs and Border Protection found the drugs. A father found guilty for beating and murdering his 5-year-old daughter. He hid her body, which is still yet to be found. A former California sheriff who has generated controversy about how he managed his department now has his social media account suspended. The reason is unclear, but he is putting the blame on his opponent.
Former Los Angeles County Sheriff Alex Villanueva has been suspended from social media X. He is running to be on the county's Board of Supervisors. On February 19th, he created another X account and posted a video claiming his opponent, Supervisor Janice Hahn, is behind it.
This is straight dirty politics 101. Someone complained that my account was somehow harassing the incumbent. Imagine that, the truth being harassing. Well, we're going to keep harassing with the truth.
NTD reached out to Hahn's office for a comment, but did not hear back by airtime. In a separate post later that day, Villanueva retweeted a post from Elon Musk's definition of content moderation. Villanueva says he agrees with him, but questions why his account is suspended. The reason for the suspension is still unclear. Villanueva had always been at odds with the LA County Board of Supervisors. In 2020, the board sought ways to remove Villanueva over allegations of deputy gangs. Villanueva was later put on a, quote, do not rehire list after the sheriff's department categorized him as such, and voters were discouraged from choosing him in the upcoming election. However, he eventually conceded to Robert Luna in the 2022 election for sheriff.
Now let's take a look at other top headlines. Former President Donald Trump and former UN Ambassador Nikki Haley will face off in the South Carolina primary this Saturday, and 50 delegates to the Republican National Convention will be up for grabs. Both candidates campaigned for a last-minute push in South Carolina today. Voters are weighing in. This Charleston resident says she's voting for Haley.
I think it's important that we have someone from South Carolina so that we can maybe get a little more attention on the national stage. I like her platform. I don't agree with all of it, but I think the couple things that we disagree upon, we can agree to disagree.
While this business owner is leaning toward Trump.
Trump will probably be like the primary pick for the Republican Party. I think he just has this big effect on Americans. I feel like he just stands up and fights for us no matter what. I think he's kind of proven that no matter how much backlash he's gotten.
One political science professor in South Carolina says he expects Trump to win big with a 30-point lead in the recent poll, but he believes the actual margin of victory could play an important role in Haley's campaign.
If she can keep it relatively close, I think that gives her enough momentum to keep the donations rolling in that will carry her to Super Tuesday.
Next stop after South Carolina will be Michigan, and its primary will be held next Tuesday. But early in-person voting has already begun. NTD will have live coverage of the South Carolina Republican primary, including special guests, on the ground reporting and the Data Hub. Join Steve Lance and Tiffany Meyer on The Nation Decides 2024 live this Saturday tomorrow, February 24th at 6 p.m. President Biden has announced more than 500 new sanctions against Russia. That's as the war in Ukraine enters its third year, and in the wake of opposition leader Alexei Navalny's death.
We in the United States are going to continue to ensure that Putin pays the price for his aggression abroad and repression at home.
Sanctions target those involved in Navalny's imprisonment in Russia's financial sector, defense industry, and procurement networks. Russian President Vladimir Putin, who is already sanctioned, isn't directly targeted this time. The U.S. is also imposing export restrictions on around 100 entities supporting Russia's military efforts. Secretary Blinken said the number of people or entities designated is the largest in a single action taken by the United States, and it will have a major long-term impact on Russia.
So many people have left Russia, more than 1 million, including many of the most educated, involved in science and technology and production. That's also going to have a profound impact.
The sanctions package is part of the administration's ongoing efforts to limit the Kremlin's revenues and hamper Moscow's ability to source materials for the war. The move is taken in partnership with other countries. The UK yesterday announced the sanctions on more than 50 individuals and entities. The European Union on Wednesday approved its own package of sweeping sanctions, banning nearly 200 entities and individuals accused of aiding Moscow. Senator Marco Rubio is sounding the alarm on the danger of a possible Chinese cyber attack. He warned on social media that the widespread U.S. self-service outage yesterday is significantly smaller than what such an attack could do. Tens of thousands of people on Down Detector and elsewhere complained their AT&T or Cricket service was out on Thursday. AT&T, which owns Cricket, confirmed the outage. By the afternoon, the company stated about 75% of its service was restored. Rubio said he doesn't know what caused the outage, but said it could be 100 times worse if China launched a cyber attack on America on the eve of a Taiwan invasion. The Republican senator says such an attack wouldn't just involve self-service, but it would also affect power, water, and banking systems. This comes after pharmacies across the country reported delays to prescription orders this week due to a cyber attack against one of the nation's largest healthcare technology companies. The company Change Healthcare didn't reveal the origin or the nature of the attack. A record meth bust at the border. U.S. Customs and Border Protection says officers seized 6.5 tons of methamphetamine, valued over $100 million. The agency says it's the largest meth seizure recorded at a port of entry. The seizure happened last week at the Camino Real International Bridge between Mexico and Texas. A CBP field operations officer referred a tractor-trailer for secondary inspection and found the drugs. The rig's manifest was for piglet drying agents. A spokesman for Homeland Security Investigation says the seizure kept the drugs from making it to Houston, saving an untold number of lives. In one of the most high-profile trials in New Hampshire's history, Adam Montgomery was found guilty of beating his 5-year-old daughter, Harmony, to death, after which he hid her body in different places. Her body is still yet to be found. NTD's Jason Blair has more.
On day 11 of the trial, the grand jury deliberated for only 6 hours and 44 minutes.
Do you find the defendant guilty or not guilty?
Guilty.
Adam Montgomery was found guilty of second-degree murder, second-degree assault, witness tampering, falsifying physical evidence, and abuse of a corpse. Montgomery's daughter, Harmony, was reported missing in November of 2021. He was charged with her murder in October 2022. It was concluded that Montgomery assaulted Harmony, leading to her death in December of 2019. Montgomery moved her body to different places, then hid it. Montgomery's estranged wife testified that her body was hidden in various places, including a car trunk and a freezer, before he disposed of it. Harmony's body has still yet to be found.
But you don't just have her testimony. You have so much more, because every witness, 50 witnesses that came in and testified to you about and provided evidence.
Montgomery refused to come to court for the trial. Due to Harmony's mother having substance abuse issues, Harmony moved in between her mother's care and foster care a couple of times. She eventually ended up in her father's custody in 2019, a few years after he was released from prison. The office director of New Hampshire's Office of the Child Advocate said in a 2022 press conference, quote, "By not putting her and her needs first, our system ultimately failed her. We owe it to her to make the changes necessary to allow our system to do better in the future." Montgomery is scheduled to be sentenced May 9th. Jason Blair, NTD News.
The city of Compton is taking a crucial step by cracking down on street takeovers and implementing harsher punishment. NTD's Christina Corona has more on the story.
City Council members in Compton voted in complete agreement for an ordinance intended to address street takeovers Tuesday. The measure, passed unanimously in a 5-0 vote, proposes raising fines to a minimum of $5,000 for reckless drivers and authorizes law enforcement to confiscate vehicles observed participating in street takeovers.
My recommendation or request is that it's a minimum of $5,000. Including any damage that they've done. So if it's $10,000 in damage, then it would be $15,000. Also, confiscate their vehicle as well.
Many residents voiced concerns that the takeovers were a reoccurring issue in the community and posed a significant risk to public safety.
Street takeovers, the circles in our neighborhood. I've complained about speed bumps being on Compton Avenue, because it's a freeway. You know, people are just flying up and down the street, saying we need crosswalks, speed limits and stuff.
However, many argued that the fines are not stiff enough.
You can have the maximum fines on the books. That doesn't mean people are going to pay the fines.
For spectating, passengers, whoever's participating in this, we need to hit them as hard as possible and send a message that we're not going to put up with it in Compton.
The takeovers have become a dangerous concern for communities in Los Angeles County, especially in Compton. Last month, 4 individuals were shot at the junction of Central Avenue and Alondra Boulevard, while a vehicle crashed into a bakery during a street takeover. In December, 27-year-old Raymond Olivares was on a walk with his girlfriend when they were run over by a man fleeing from a nearby Compton street takeover. The ordinance will go into effect in 30 days. Christina Corona, NTD News, California.
Well, take a short break now, everybody, but here's a look at what we have for you when we come back. Los Angeles County sues Grubhub over allegations of deceptive business practices. More on the legal battle. 5 boaters rescued in Southern California. Their boat got caught in the fishing lines and crashed. Jimmy Carter becomes the first president to see a White House ornament honoring his legacy. We'll take a look at the significance of the design. Those stories and more coming up on NTD Tonight. Welcome back to NTD Tonight. I'm your host, David Zhang. Los Angeles County files lawsuit against Grubhub over alleged deceptive business practices. NTD's Stephanie Sikal reports.
Los Angeles County has filed a lawsuit against Grubhub, accusing the food delivery service of deceptive business practices that exploit consumers, drivers, and restaurants. The lawsuit claims Grubhub misled consumers with hidden fees, ordered restaurant listings based on advertisement payments, potentially decreased tips for drivers through misleading language about healthcare subsides, and adversely affected restaurants with refund policies. The lawsuit spans 51 pages and includes instances where Grubhub allegedly advertised ordering food online from Los Angeles area restaurants for free before imposing hidden fees at checkout. Grubhub claims that these practices have been discontinued, with all fees now being disclosed prior to purchase. Another accusation in the lawsuit pertains to Grubhub's mobile application, claiming that restaurant listings are ordered based on advertising money paid rather than relevance. The suit suggests that this may lead consumers to believe drivers no longer depend on tips, impacting their income. Grubhub denies the allegations, stating it complies with the law and has discontinued some practices. The county seeks to permanently stop these practices along with fines and restitution. Stephanie Sikal, NTD News.
Passengers on a boat in a Southern California marina were rescued after their boat crashed into rocks while lobster fishing. NTD's Christina Corona has more on the story.
The Marina del Rey Harbor Patrol deputies responded to a distress call Wednesday evening to assist 5 stranded passengers in need of assistance.
Last night about 7:20, our dive team was returning from a night dive with a joint operation with Parks Bureau when a Mayday call went out over VHF 16. The boater stated he was about to go on the rocks just outside the north entrance of Marina Del Rey.
The sheriff's duty boat immediately responded along with the sheriff's vessel and the LA County Lifeguards Baywatch Del Rey.
While we were en route to the north entrance, the boater stated that one of his boaters fell off the boat and was in the water.
Once arrived on the scene, officials were able to recover the man in the water and bring him to safety. They quickly medically evaluated him and determined that he had no injuries and did not require paramedics. The boat deputies then rescued the remaining 4 occupants from the boat.
The offshore boat Tradition arrived. We were able to toss them a tow line. We were able to safely tow them from the rocks. And what caused the boat to go on the rocks is they wrapped their propeller with the line from the lobster trap. So they were unable to maneuver away from the rocks in any way.
Officials reported that the boaters were attempting to retrieve one of the lobster traps, but due to too many lobster traps close together, they were unable to maneuver through the traps. Christina Corona, NTD News, California.
President Jimmy Carter becomes the first president to live to see a White House ornament honoring his legacy. He's turning 100 in October this year.
The White House Historical Association has unveiled its official 2024 White House Christmas ornament in honor of former President Jimmy Carter. It marks the first time in the history of the official White House Christmas ornament that a president has been alive for the unveiling of their ornament. The ornament honoring President Carter is shaped as an anchor, which is also a first for the association.
He was the only American president to attend the United States Naval Academy. So the anchor is the primary image on the front and on the back. On the front is, of course, the White House. The doves are emblematic of the Camp David Peace Accords and his effort toward peace. We have poinsettias there, of course, for the Christmas note. On the back is an image at the top of SSN-23, the Seawolf class submarine that he had named after him, which is remarkable, the only president to have an American nuclear submarine named after them. At the very bottom, you may be able to see a garland of peanut flowers and peanuts themselves down along the bottom, a nod to his time as a farmer in Georgia. And then in the middle is a globe, which we think represents his lifelong commitment to environment efforts and world peace.
McLaurin adds that the Carters were centered on family, and their time at the White House around Christmas was a time of family gathering.
I think their Christmases were centered around family and around home. And it's important to remember that the White House, in addition to being the office to the president and his staff, it's a home to the president and his family. And I think at Christmas time, more than any other, especially during the Carter presidency, that was the spirit of their home life, was around Christmas.
Carter, a Democrat, served as the 39th U.S. president from 1977 to 1981. Before that, he served as Georgia's governor and state senator. Now, at 99 years old, he is the oldest living U.S. president.
World Series winner Eric Hosmer announced his retirement, and NHL Stadium Series took place this week. Let's go to NTD's Tyler Castillo for more.
First baseman Eric Hosmer has announced his retirement after spending 13 seasons in the league. Eric Hosmer is most known for winning the World Series title with the Kansas City Royals, where after he signed an 8-year deal with the San Diego Padres. After that, he was traded to the Boston Red Sox. After the Red Sox, he was released as a free agent and then signed with the Chicago Cubs for his very last season. Hosmer is also a 4-time Gold Glove winner and went to the All-Star in 2016, where he was named MVP. He finished his career with a .276 batting average with 198 home runs and 893 RBIs. The NHL Stadium Series took place earlier this week, where we saw the Battle of the East in a 2-game event. The matchups this year were the Philadelphia Flyers versus the New Jersey Devils, and then the Battle of New York as the New York Rangers faced off against their close neighbor, the New York Islanders. Let's start with the Flyers versus the Devils. It was a high-scoring matchup for the Devils, where they walked away with 6 unanswered goals against the Flyers. 2 of the goals were scored apiece for both Nico Hischier and Nathan Bastian, with Hischier finishing the matchup with 3 points for the Devils. The Flyers only had Owen Tippett as the player with more than 1 goal on the team. Devils goaltender Nico Doss finished the matchup with 3 goals against, with a save percentage of .938. Flyers goaltender Samuel Ersson finished the night with 5 goals against for a save percentage of .872. Devils 6, Flyers 3. Now to the battle in New York. It wasn't long as once the puck was dropped, Rangers Matt Rempe and Islanders Matt Martin dropped the gloves for a heavyweight tilt between the 2 New York teams. This was also Rangers Matt Rempe's NHL debut, the first player to have his debut into the league in an outdoor matchup. It was a close back-and-forth matchup, eventually pushing the game to overtime, where then we saw Rangers' Artemi Panarin rush the net to score right before the net got dislodged. After review, the referees agreed that it was a good goal for the Rangers to end the matchup. Rangers 6, Islanders 5.
Stay tuned for China in Focus with Tiffany Meyer coming up next. And in more China news, recalls involving over 120,000 Chinese-made gun safes. Is yours one of them? This comes after reports of unauthorized users can't open the safes, including a 6-year-old boy. More details coming tonight at 9:30 on NTD's China in Focus with Tiffany Meyer. And that's all we've got for you tonight. We would like you to join us again on NTD Tonight every weekday at 9 p.m. I'm David Zhang. Have a wonderful weekend.